In this episode of MythBusters,
Lift off!
Adam and Jamie take a pot shot at one of the craziest myths around.
That was the scariest thing I've ever done on this show.
Is the American border being breached by daredevil slingshotters?
You're out! You're
I'm
out!
free!
And can the team bust the world record for hurling a human projectile?
3, 2, 1.
Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
and Jamie Heineman.
Quack, damn you.
I wouldn't say Jamie's an evil genius.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
When will the fun ever stop?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
What the hell is a border slingshot?
Well, we have a new myth involving people that are wanting to illegally enter the country, and they've apparently developed a gigantic slingshot capable of launching them 200 yards over the top of a fence, and supposedly it's accurate enough to land them in a mattress on the other side.
Well, I've heard they're not only doing this with individuals, but they're offering a family package where they can shoot up to 4 people over that fence and onto that tiny little mattress.
Well, here's a couple who will probably get a big bang out of their work.
The myth has its roots in the long and scary history of human cannonballs.
They go hurtling with terrific speed through the open space.
Ever since the 1870s, people have been firing themselves on ballistic trajectories. But could you really cross the border like this?
So what is our plan?
Well, the first thing we have to do, I guess, is replicate a big slingshot. And it's going to have to be something that is capable of launching, say, a 185-pound person 200 yards. That's a big-ass slingshot.
Yeah, at least one person. Well, you know, in order so that we don't build something massive and get it wrong, I really think we should start with some small-scale testing of all the various materials we could use specific lengths of that, shoot different objects of different weights, and come up with, hopefully, an equation that'll tell us what's the best thing to use for a full-size slingshot.
Well, you know, with a big build like this, it's always best to start with a small scale. It ought to tell us something.
So, armed with a small is beautiful philosophy, Adam and Jamie ease into this myth
Targets. More targets.
with a store-bought slingshot challenge.
I know how much you love competition. Shall we do a little slingshot challenge? See if I can hit the blue jays out of the apple trees like you did back in the 20s?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Let's say 5 points, 4 points, 3 points, 2 points.
Okay.
You feeling lucky, buddy?
Nope.
You feeling lucky?
They'll calculate velocity using the high-speed camera. These slingshots aren't toys, so don't try this at home.
These are like bullets. They will hurt.
They will kill.
Well, it'll hurt to dig them out of your leg. That was pretty good. I wasn't even aiming for bullseye. 0 points for Mr. Heineman.
I had 2 bullseyes in a row earlier.
I had 2 bullseyes in a row earlier.
4.
4-pointer. Hey, 5-pointer. In your face, man.
Adam's not used to winning MythBusters competitions. But for once, he's right on target.
Nope, not even close.
Woo! Another pointless competition brought to you by MythBusters.
That looked like a lot of fun, but how about the science? Their steel shot reached speeds of up to 85 miles per hour. At competition level, slingshots can achieve twice that, so there's plenty of room for improvement.
We now want to look at a whole variety of different materials, elastics, shock cords, bungee cords, rubbers, etc., and see if one of those gives a better velocity or a better contraction, and we'll learn a lot more about what actually gives us the ideal slingshot.
They're scaling things up a notch by turning the scissor lift into a medium-range slingshot.
It's important for this thing to be fairly rigid because we're going to be looking very closely at the speeds and dynamics of what are going on. If the platform moves, that's a variable that will give us, false results.
Adam decides to make the test missile weigh exactly 1 kilo, metric being the international scientific unit of measurement.
That hole took about 50 grams out of it, so 2 more holes ought to do just the ticket.
A 1 kilo weight will make it easier to analyze their results when they carry out their test firings.
Hey! How about that? Exactly a kilo.
With an array of test firings planned, Adam paints the projectile to guard against lead poisoning, because that's bad.
Fabric, velvet, velvet stripes, white, white, yellow, orange. Do you see leather?
He's looking for material to make a firing pouch. One perfectly good pair of gloves. No Jamie in sight? Sorted. A quick snip, a couple of stitches, a pair of grommets, and Jamie's none the wiser.
It looks like it shouldn't grab a hold of it.
Yeah.
A delivery to M5 turns out to be a box full of bungee.
This is the commercial stuff,
Right.
and that's the military stuff. For the same size, this has my money.
With a whole day of testing ahead, Adam's unhappy with the rig.
You can do all the firing then. That scares the out of me.
Okay.
I mean, you're running it over a hard point. I mean, you could humor me and soften that with the angle grinder and stuff like that, but running it through such a hard point makes me terrified.
I'm happy to soften that.
Jamie softens the edges and strengthens the yoke by welding on a pair of support struts. And before the day is done, the rig's done too.
Dude.
So it's out to M5's lot to see if the scissor lift slingshot will cut the mustard.
Well, we're just sort of dialing our system in right now. We've got the scissor lift set up to be the yoke of our slingshot. We've got some military grade bungee here and our 1 kilo ball. And I hope we don't hit that blue van all the way at the end of the parking lot. I suspect we'll hit somewhere about halfway between here and there.
In the myth of border slingshot, Adam and Jamie prepare their scissor lift rig for a day of test firing. They're trying to work out what it would take to launch a human 200 yards across the U.S. frontier. In Oxfordshire, Great Britain, the Mad Dogs and Englishmen of the Dangerous Sports Club built a medieval trebuchet to toss adrenaline junkies 180 feet at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour. In the year 2000, the unfortunate Stella Young took the ride. She hit the safety net, then the ground, and then the headlines. Stella escaped with a broken pelvis. 2 years later, a 19-year-old man missed the net completely and died. Before the MythBusters work their way up to a human-sized slingshot, they're going to carry out extensive testing on small projectiles using 5 different types of rubber.
When Jamie heads out into the jungle, this is often all he wears.
First up, a 1 meter length of military bungee and a 1 kilo projectile. The ruler is at 45 degrees to the scissor lift for the best firing angle.
Can I do the first one?
Sure.
Mark this off
Okay.
at the maximum stretch.
Jamie marks the release point so that when they scale up to full size, they'll know how much pullback space they'll need.
And 3, 2, 1. Jamie's standing exactly where it landed.
If you can see it, it hit right here.
Test number 1, military bungee propelled our 1 kilogram weight about 67 feet. So the next one up is the stranded shock cord. This stuff is apparently super, super expensive.
First, they measure the tension and pullback distance.
3, 2, 1.
43 feet.
That's a full 24 feet less than the military bungee. Next up, solid shock cord.
In 3, 2, 1.
38.5.
I suspect we started with the best.
I'm curious to see what the surgical rubber does, because I have a suspicion that might be the best, but I don't really know. Not having handled military-grade bungee cord before.
Not in a long time, not since Da Nang, right?
Last, but if Jamie's right, not least, 1/4-inch surgical tubing. It's more elastic than the other material, so they have to raise the scissor lift to get a 45-degree angle.
You want to just hold it and I'll fire it and we'll see where it lands?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, where's the ball?
The ball's up there, of course. Where else would it be?
The pullback is 14 feet, double the distance of the other contenders. The tension measures 37 pounds.
And 3, 2, 1.
Where did that go?
Someplace in the grass.
Really? I didn't think that was going to work that well.
The high-speed footage records a velocity of almost 100 feet per second, over double the speed of the shock cords, and 33% faster than the military bungee.
Hey, Jamie. It went over the truck and it hit the wall. I think we have our answer, or part of it.
The surgical rubber delivered double the distance of the next best, the military bungee. But could the pullback be a problem?
Best performer we've had so far in our testing is the surgical tubing, the 1/4-inch surgical tubing. It way outperformed the other materials. However, when we scale it up, you might have to drag 6 strands of surgical tubing like 200 feet, and that's just not feasible for us. We may end up going with something like the military bungee, which has a less of a throw, but also less of a pullback, just to be realistic about how to get the slingshot to work.
Which means there's more testing to do. They want to know whether doubling the length of the sling or doubling the number of slings doubles the distance that the projectile is launched. And if you double the weight of the projectile, do you have the distance? In other words, is the relationship linear?
Okay, I'm gonna put in the 2 kilo. 3, 2, 1.
That's 27.9. Next is a ½ kilo. I hit the wall.
104 feet.
This is a 1 kilo ball. Worst case scenario is that I get hit in the ghoulies by these strands. Oh! Oh, went into the other yard. 230 feet, I'd guess. That's what we call a home run.
Eventually, the Slingshot Testathon has run its course, and every combination of rubber and missile has been tried out.
65.
So, time for some serious number crunching to see if this myth could really fly.
Well, I think we've got some really good data so far. What has it told us?
Well, it told us that surgical rubber tubing is our best bet. It way outperformed the other rubber.
Yeah, and even though it's got such a much greater pullback length than the other things we tried, I don't think that's such a problem, because our data really shows that we get the same increase in throwing distance by doubling the number of bands as we do by doubling their length. So we don't need super long bands, we just need many more short ones.
Okay, so we're going to get a bunch of surgical rubber. What do you think? Are we ready to go full scale yet?
I'm not so sure we should go right to full scale. This is a lot of material we're talking about. I'd like to do one more interim test just to make sure all our figures are dialed in.
Yeah, this is a big deal. That'd be the safest thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before they commit themselves, they need to fill in some gaps in their knowledge of the properties of surgical rubber.
There's a few factors we still don't know about it. We don't know what its maximum pull strength is, its breaking strength, and we don't know how long that will be. So if we have a 10-foot length, we don't know whether it'll pull to 40, 60, 70 feet.
So they set up a strainometer, which involves a measuring strip, a scale, a forklift, and a 10-foot length of 1-inch surgical tubing.
Okay, you ready? 50 pounds.
Okay, he's at 40 feet.
We're at 70 pounds.
Okay, we're at 50 feet.
We're at 100 pounds.
Okay, now you're in the danger zone. Did you see what it was?
Looks like on this one we got to about 150 pounds.
The 10-foot length of rubber snapped at 60 feet, a ratio of 6 to 1.
It's pretty chunked up. I mean, it definitely spikes right there after a 5 to 1 pull.
Yeah.
That's like 5 to 1 is its maximum ability.
Which means 50 feet is the safe pullback limit for a 10-foot length of surgical rubber. Now, they need to know just one more crucial number.
Well, this might look like one of the lost scene stones from The Lord of the Rings. In fact, it's an 8-pound bowling ball, and this is part of our next scaling up of the border slingshot. When I'm done with this, it's going to weigh just about 8 kilos, which is roughly 1/10 of Buster's final weight.
And that will give them the magic figure they need. A successful bowling ball flight will let them scale up for the big one by a factor of 10.
What we're going to do with this is we're going to take it out to a unsuspecting football field, rig up our surgical tubing and our other stuff to the goal posts, turning them into an excessively large slingshot, and we're going to embed this probably in the next town.
First, Adam must increase the weight of the bowling ball.
What is this thing made of?
Here comes trouble.
It's the world's biggest basketball.
And that's the end of that experiment.
Well, there's your problem. I did something I didn't think was humanly possible. I broke a big chunk out of our bowling ball.
Is it still gonna fire?
Oh, it's still gonna fire. All it needs to be is round and heavy.
Well, also, you know.
Damaging your floors?
Adam lives and Adam learns.
I'm gonna continue the destruction of this thing.
Let's face it, it's what he does best.
Okay, that was easy. I'm okay. It's got a creamy nougat center.
He drills a hole and fills it with lead.
Perfect. 17.6.
In other words, 8 kilos. 10 death balls, and you've got yourself one Buster. The myth of the border slingshot takes Adam and Jamie to the football fields of Encinal High.
Stop. Nicely done.
They're testing the myth that illegal immigrants are launching themselves into the U.S. by giant slingshot. But first, they want to cut things down to size by tossing a bowling ball exactly 1/10 of Buster's weight. The school's goalposts are a ready-made slingshot yoke.
Hey, Adam, I had kind of an idea. Since this is so flexible, what if we put some guy wires or guy ropes on it?
I think that's absolutely what we should do.
Like good MythBusters, they've brought enough rope to lasso a small country. Adam ties the guy wires off to a couple of cars, then measures out the firing range.
I'm marking out 50-foot increments of how far our target should go, and it's looking pretty unreasonable. I don't think we'll even get the bowling ball more than 150 feet, if that.
And by the time he reaches 450 feet, he's even less optimistic.
The myth is that these people slingshotting themselves over the border are traveling another 150 feet that way. 300 yards, that's 600 feet. Look what's out there. I don't think so.
3, 2, 1.
To get an idea of just how far that is, here's human cannonball David Smith Jr. cannonballing 170 feet. It's a spectacular flight, but it's not even 1/3 of the distance claimed in the border slingshot myth. It's one heck of a long shot. Just to make sure that the goalposts can take the strain, they decide to kick things off with a lesser weight.
1-inch surgical tubing with the 2-kilo ball,
Yep.
10 feet on each side.
Yep. And 3, 2, 1.
Whoa!
The slingshot becomes a boomerang.
That was the scariest thing I've ever done on this show. That was terrifying.
Terror. It's hilarious. So what went wrong?
The hazards of giant slingshot making. Jamie added a little extra chain to his ball basket so we could hopefully keep the balls in and not have them fall out. And, well, that extra piece of chain seems to have held it in because that ball went up and then came right back down at us. Whew, that was scary.
One near-death experience per myth is about enough.
Oh, is this a recipe for disaster or what?
So they decide to relaunch with an automatic firing mechanism, complete with safety pin and remote triggering device.
Okay, so this is the 2-kilo ball with 10 feet of 1-inch surgical tubing. Second try. 3, 2, 1.
We have liftoff.
Damn.
I'll be darned, that went a lot farther than I thought it would.
Well, I can see where it landed. 205 feet.
So what's next? Do we go up to the 4 kilo?
I think it's time to double up the bungee and go for the bowling ball.
So, 2 10-foot lengths of 1-inch surgical rubber tubing on each side and an 8-kilo death ball in the middle. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, we're about to launch an 8-kilogram bowling ball with the world's second biggest slingshot. The biggest hasn't been built yet. It is only in the mind of the MythBusters at this point.
Which is probably the safest place for it.
3, 2, 1. Oh! Hey, that was thrilling!
The bowling ball got snagged by the basket and only traveled 21 feet. For quick release, they weave a makeshift basket out of line.
Look at that, huh? Huh? What a masterpiece. We're working on table doilies next.
So, once more into the breach.
And 3, 2, 1. Whoa! That would be bad.
The boomerang's back, and this time it's taken out the goal can.
Shockingly, that didn't work. I can't imagine why.
The crew comes to the rescue with a camera bag that could have been custom-made for slingshotting. The goalposts, on the other hand, clearly weren't, and they're bent out of shape.
So everybody's clear here. Those things break, it's going right to where you are, okay?
Yeah.
So, camera guys, everybody, this is now a very precarious thing. It may not be a lot of force, but it's going to be moving really quickly if it goes.
With the slingshot on its last legs, can they get the launch they need to complete the testing?
All right. Ready in 3, 2, 1.
Well, Adam, I'd say that worked pretty well.
I think it did.
Right at the last, success.
Jamie, that's 77 feet.
For the first time, we're starting to get some activity with this projectile that is like what we'll expect to see with a full-sized human. We launched an 8-kilogram projectile around 70 feet or so, and that's about a tenth of a human. We need to be able to launch it farther than 70 feet, but at least we're starting to get into that world. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of tired of all this test firing of these projectiles. I think we've crunched the numbers enough. It's time to build the real thing.
You know, from just a cost standpoint, let alone a physics standpoint, tossing him 200 yards, I think, is completely ridiculous. We're talking something like 12,000 pounds of pulling force to throw him that distance. I reckon we ought to shoot for the world record for a human cannonball, which is about 200 feet. By my math, that would give us about 40 bands of 1-inch surgical tubing, 10 feet long, 20 on each side, about a final pulling force of 4,000 pounds, which seems easily doable.
Okay, and so we don't have to build this massive structure that is a one-use only sort of a deal. I'd recommend that we go with radio towers, a truss structure that we can guy wire out.
Excellent, I think that's a great idea. Man, if we build this thing, this has to be the largest slingshot anybody has ever built.
The plan for the final rig is elegantly simple. 2 radio towers will form the V-shaped yoke. An array of guy wires will hold them in place. And the sling itself will comprise 40 10-foot lengths of 1-inch surgical tubing. Seems straightforward enough. Time to build the world's biggest slingshot.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
First, the radio towers, which they've purchased for just $700, must be assembled. And there's some modifications to make to the business ends, where the slings will be attached.
The point of this exercise is to terminate our antenna strut so that it ends at a nice point on both ends. And this just concentrates the load that we put on this. I'm going to be hanging one of these snatch blocks right here, and I want to put the load evenly on all 3 of these bars. I don't want it to overload a single one of them.
Meanwhile, Jamie is busy building a man-sized firing sling.
I guess I'm about the same size as Buster, so this seems about right to me. We don't want to make it too small.
The whole contraption must be light, but extremely strong.
Unfortunately, humans are big, heavy things, usually. And so when you're using them as projectiles, it takes a lot of energy, and it's actually a heck of a lot of work.
Luckily, Jamie's strict recycling policy saves MythBusters a cool $5 in canvas.
Pretty bloody close. The canvas is mainly to keep these cords neat, because things tend to get tangled and hooked. So it's not going to be structural. We're just going to glue it on.
Meanwhile, Adam's fulfilling the fooling around clause in his contract.
That's like a Power Rangers villain. Oh, my guts fell out! Oh, my guts all fell out! Oh.
This is what you look like after sextuple bypass surgery.
I have nothing to say.
And with that out of his system, they tie up the build by attaching the lengths of surgical rubber to the sling. Tomorrow is the day of reckoning for these border-busting dummies. The MythBusters arrive at a waterside wasteland where they'll erect their giant slingshot and try to hurl a crash test dummy 200 yards over an imaginary border.
So how far is the 200-yard mark for over the border?
Well, you see those white posts that are way off in the distance there?
Yeah.
That is about 200 yards.
Wow. There's no way he's going to make it that far.
Well, we can try.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a magnificent thing.
They've spent 3 days testing with small-scale rigs, and they're backing a surgical rubber sling to give them their longest shot. The plan is to erect one Goliath of a yoke
Good.
using 2 radio masts,
Perfect.
each one anchored with 3 guy wires.
Ah, yeah. You know, Jamie gets all of his strength from experiments he did with gamma rays back in the 70s.
They've hired long-reach gradals to raise the masts, which are 45 feet long.
Just a little bit farther forward. Stop! That's pretty much exactly right. Out in the sun, making a big slingshot. Well, it's a hell of a thing.
That's way heck up there. I have a feeling that we weren't exaggerating when we said this will be the world's largest slingshot.
Now for the tricky bit, positioning the guy wires so that they support the mast without getting in the way of the slingshot's trajectory. They want to avoid a situation where the dummy is hurled into a guy wire, like this. So they opt for a configuration which they hope will hold up the towers, while leaving the area in the direction of fire guy wire free.
I think we're okay.
I think that's good.
The first 2 guy wires are made fast to a disused railway line. Only when the 3rd is secured will they know if they've got their angles right.
I'm gonna go ahead and back the forklift out.
Okay. This is the moment of truth. This is where we learned that we screwed everything up.
Adam tensions up the 3rd guy wire. Cue moment of truth.
Oh. We f***ed up.
Yeah.
The guy wires are not forming a wide enough triangle, so instead of supporting the tower, they're pulling it over.
I just lost all my joie de vivre.
The only solution is to cross the two guy wires in front of the Slingshot. They hope that Buster will fly over the wires and over the border, but there's no guarantee of either.
It's kind of risky, though, because if Buster doesn't go as far or as fast as we think he's going to go, he's going to land on the guy wires, and this whole rig could take a tumble.
It's not a perfect solution, but it's the only one they've got. So they reposition the forward guy wires and check their angles.
I think it's beautiful. I think the cross is nice and far away. The point under the cable is still about 25 feet. We're going to fly at least 25 feet.
Okay, let's do the other one, huh?
All right.
The first tower was the tricky one. Now they've got a system in place. They nail the second one with no trouble at all.
That's it.
All right, then. Last cable.
The last cable is tensioned up, and there's the giant Y of the world's biggest slingshot yoke.
Wow.
Now that it's up, the scale of the border slingshot myth starts to hit home.
A structure like this is not a very mobile structure. This is not something you could pull up with on a flatbed, launch someone, and then be gone before the Border Patrol could catch you.
Even if the border guards somehow failed to notice a major piece of construction taking place on their watch, and the immigrants flying overhead, there's still the issue of the landing on the other side.
We may make our best guess as to where this mattress might go, and I guarantee you we're gonna miss it.
The guys swing the sling into place and admire their handiwork.
I think what we've got here is a thing.
Looks like a big-ass slingshot to me.
There's just one more problem to solve.
We'll have to think a little bit about how Buster's going to get held in here.
Oh, how to hold him in there.
to keep him falling down that way.
Right.
It's something to think about.
It's gotta let him go.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yo, I know what you're talking about, man. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
They'll work out how to seat Buster tomorrow when they attempt the horizontal bungee across the border. It's been a long day, so what's the verdict?
This is full on. You know, this thing with the radio towers and everything like that. I don't think anybody else has ever done anything quite like this. Buster's going for a pretty exciting ride tomorrow, I think.
Well, I gotta establish that this is Canada, so I'm gonna throw a Canadian flag up here.
It's 7 a.m. on the day of the big launch, and the build team arrives to stake out an imaginary U.S.-Canadian border.
Oh, yeah, this'll keep them out.
We're at 200 feet, 250.
According to the myth, giant slingshots are hurling illegal immigrants 200 yards across the border and into the United States.
That's 200 yards. About as wide as the border.
200 yards, that's pretty far. I doubt it's gonna make it.
I think that's pretty far to be slinging a human being. 200 yards to get over the border? I think this myth might be slightly absurd. But you know those Canadians, they're kind of crafty.
But are they crafty enough to fly 200 yards and land on a mattress?
Oot!
It's one heck of a long shot, eh?
Run, run! You're oot! You're oot!
Adam and Jamie spent a day erecting their giant border-busting slingshot. And they're also doubtful about the myth.
Just like throw a blanket over the razor wire or whatever and go for it, you know? This is gonna kill you, mattress or not.
The consensus is that the border is beyond reach, dead or alive. So the MythBusters have lowered the bar for today's launch.
All right, what we got here is the mark for the world record of human cannonball. I don't think we're even gonna come close to this mark. My feeling is that it probably won't even reach to the first tie down of the slingshot.
The world record target is 201 feet, set in 2002 by David Smith Sr. Tori's not holding his breath.
The last time we tried to fire Buster on a ballistic trajectory was with the boom lift catapult. And, you know, we thought we were gonna get like 200 feet. We didn't even come close. I think it went like 30 feet.
3, 2, 1.
In fact, the boom lift catapult tossed him a respectable 90 feet. if you include the 60 feet of boom. In Raccoon Rocket, 10 pounds of black powder blasted him 80 feet.
Oh my God!
And in the myth of the Ming Dynasty astronaut, well, he just got burned to a cinder. Come to think of it, Buster could do with a launch break. Maybe it's time to give a relative rookie a go.
She's a little worse for wear.
When it comes to handling children, Jamie's old school. The kid only weighs 55 pounds, so if she doesn't launch, the myth is totally busted.
Well, I figure if we start off with the kid, and we'll be more ensured that we're going to get trajectory, and we can work our way up to Buster.
If she does, she's going to be flying backwards.
Bye!
Adam shimmies up one of the towers to install a camera for a bird's eye view of liftoff. And with that, everything is ready. For safety reasons, the dummy will stay stationary while the surgical rubber is stretched upwards towards the top of the towers using gradles. For full power, the sling must have 4,000 pounds of tension, a stretch of up to 50 feet. Any further, and the rubber could snap, with painful results.
Okay, you drivers are going to have to know to control yourself to keep it balanced. If you see it start to shift, compensate. All right, is that clear?
Grant and Tori are the pullback pilots.
All right, I'm pulling the safety pin.
The days of testing and building are over. This is it.
I feel pretty good. That's Jamie's final okay. So as soon as we get the producers okay, we're ready to launch this kid. I can't wait. I think she's going to fly a fair distance, or she's going to go straight out and come straight back. We've seen a lot of that in this experimentation.
Okay, everybody's in position. Gradles, go ahead and start tensioning, over.
The tension mounts towards the 4,000-pound mark.
Okay, you guys are good.
At release, the dummy will pull between 6 and 9 Gs, about as much as a space shuttle astronaut.
Wow.
Let Tori catch up a little bit more, Grant.
Then, disaster strikes.
Oh! Stop. All stop.
Houston, we have a problem. A guy wire has slipped, but Jamie makes a quick appraisal and decides not to abort.
I'm going to suggest that we fire it at this point.
I am firing in 3, 2, 1.
Blast off.
What happened? What was our shift?
While Adam and Jamie investigate the problem, Carrie's been measuring the throw.
Jamie,
Yes,
do you remember my prediction for how far she would fly?
it was 132 feet,
Guess how far she flew?
133 feet.
132 feet.
Ah, well, good guess.
Nicely done.
You're the winner.
Not bad with a broken yoke, but far from perfect. So, how's the kid?
Here, let me give you a hand. That doesn't really look like a survivable kind of flight to me.
And the verdict?
I would call that a failed launch. The dummy held on to the basket and ended up basically spinning end over end and landing right here. However, this is 132 feet. It's very respectable as far as human propulsion and distance go.
The kid's a goner. But how about the slingshot?
I think we can fix the rig. We've got to retension this main cable that seemed to have stretched a bit, and we should be good to fire again not too long from now.
They retension the loose cable and decide to take out some additional insurance.
I am adding a pair of guy wires to these towers just to add an extra level of support. I've got a shackle, and that's all I need.
Let's hope he has a head for heights.
Here we go.
Oh, he makes me nervous when he does this.
Hey, it's a nice view up here. I'm ready up here, Tor.
Adam attaches the cables to the tower. Then they're tensioned up and fastened down. Meanwhile, Carrie and Grant prepare Susie, the crash test dummy, for launch.
I mean, clearly she's not had enough yoga.
They're working on the theory that she'll fly further in the fetal position.
How's that look?
Painful, but that is a ball.
They pre-tension the sling into the loading position, then place the 130-pound Susie aboard.
Oh, yeah.
She's in.
She's in.
That's it.
If you've ever flown economy, you know just how Susie's feeling. But it's all systems go for a second shot at the world record.
Okay, I'm pulling the pin. Guys, go ahead and start up.
The Greydalls slowly stretch up the surgical rubber.
Looking good. Adam, get ready to fire. Go ahead.
Roger that.
Okay, I recommend to fire. Go, Adam.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
As Jamie would say, whoops.
Well, that was a familiar result.
So what went wrong this time?
What happened is the same thing that happened with our bowling ball. The sling is actually rotating around, holding on to the dummy and slinging him back. How we solved that, I'm not exactly sure. We put almost absolute full tension on the rig this last run, and the dummy looked like she was going pretty awful fast. I think if we can manage to release her properly, we'll see what this rig is capable of.
Adam thinks that taking up some of the seat's slack might help to release the dummy.
I think you could almost try a knot around that. Just give it a
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They also try seating her sideways.
Yeah, I see what you're doing, Tori, and I like that.
Okay, so everybody's in position. Go ahead and tension.
Will it be 3 times a charm?
Okay, Tori, you've got just a few feet. That was the blue rope that broke.
Susie's having the flight from hell. The blue rope that was attached to Tori's Greydall snapped before the sling even reached maximum tension.
Well, it looks like our rig kind of broke. One of our blue ropes that we were tensioning the rig with, we're checking on the breaking strength right now. It broke. So apparently we exceeded its breaking strength.
The day is wearing on, and the MythBusters family of would-be immigrants are still stuck on Canadian soil.
I'm not sure we were ever making our way the full 200 yards into the United States, but really, we can't finish this day without some kind of launch.
Down but never out, the MythBusters get going on another round of repairs.
In and out, nobody gets hurt.
Susie takes her seat for her 3rd ride.
In about 5 minutes, I want to be going, woo!
Seconds out, round 3.
Okay, go ahead and start to tension.
Tension's the word. Another failure now, and this myth's in trouble.
Adam, I want you to do the count quick once we get into position, over. Okay, stop Grant. Fire at will.
I am firing in 3, 2, 1.
We still didn't really get a good launch. At least it wasn't a, throwback.
The high-speed camera shows that Susie slipped out of her sling, so she didn't receive all the available thrust.
128 feet. I'm afraid she's still a Canadian.
Border crossing, that's what it's all about.
Time is running out for the MythBusters. Engineering problems have beset their super-sized slingshot. And the U.S. border remains unbreached. There's only enough daylight left for one final launch. Buster's understudy, Rescue Randy, takes the hot seat.
Okay, oops.
He's going to be shooting for the world human cannonball record of 201 feet. Jamie's made a last-minute adjustment to the sling arrangement. Adam's impressed.
Lift off! Jamie, it looks a lot more diabolical now. I don't know, you might have done it.
Not one to be left out, Adam makes his own modification to the launch seat. so that the dummy sits higher up.
This is center of balance was about here. I want it to be here. That was that string, this is that string.
It looks high, Adam.
I know it looks high, but he was real low last time. This is a classic MythBusters scenario. We're just about to do the end thing. You've made a modification and I'll have made a modification, and we'll both want to take credit if it works. I've seen it before.
You can take credit, Adam.
Oh, he sucked me in the jaw.
There you go. The center of balance is pretty much dead in the middle.
Okay.
I think this one's gonna go. I do.
How far?
220 feet.
220?
The light is fading fast. They hurriedly pre-tension the sling and make a final pre-flight inspection.
I think it looks pretty good.
Let's pull the pin and do it. Pin is out. Release cable is clear.
Okay, go ahead and tension.
I want this to work.
Grant and Tori slowly advance towards the edge of the dock. To get the 165-pound dummy past the world record marker, they'll need every inch of the 40-foot stretch.
Hey, Grant, stop. Tori, keep going.
When the sling is at maximum tension, 4,000 pounds of pressure is ready to be unleashed.
Okay, stop. Fire at will.
3, 2, 1.
Blast off. Now that's a throw.
Woo! Did we get him to the border? He passed the... Wow! He passed the 200-foot mark! Yeah! That's a record! It's gonna work.
Nice.
Miraculously, the dummy is still in one piece.
You're not gonna get the mattress, that's for freaking sure.
Look back at... I know. I mean, that's a hell of a flight.
My money says he would have gone over if we had more time to balance it. Because it's not far
He would
away.
have gone over the fence, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would reckon that he would have easily made it over the fence because we lost so much energy to this.
Yeah.
The high-speed camera shows that Buster's stunt double still slipped out of the sling, causing him to rotate. But it was still quite a flight.
You broke the world record for cannonball.
What is it? What was our distance?
Your distance at the first landing was 211 feet.
Well,
Nicely done.
I'd say that's a good job. That's all we can do today.
Let's pack up and go home. I'm tired.
They flung their final fling. It's been a myth-busting marathon, which started like this and ended like this. A world record for a dummy at least. Not a bad consolation prize, but the myth of the border slingshot is busted.
You know, that was a lot of fun to try, but I think you and I were both pretty clear from the get-go that the whole idea of a traveling rig that throws immigrants 200 yards onto a mattress was ludicrous.
Yeah, but from an engineering standpoint, we did prove that it would be possible, and I think that we could have done it if we had another week or so to nut it out.
Yeah, it might have been possible, but look at the spirit of the myth. To throw them 200 yards would be a much bigger thing than we built, and ours is in no way portable. And Randy was going 56 miles per hour when we threw him 200 feet. If we threw him 200 yards, he'd be going close to 100 miles an hour. And everything we've done with Buster says that's not a survivable fall, no matter what kind of mattress you've got.
You just need more of them, maybe like 200.
No way. This thing is completely and totally busted. We did it.
Yeah, well, okay, it's busted.